Did you know that the best place to view the project is through the website theythemproject.org? It's the only place you can see all the photos, videos, and podcast interviews, and easily share the project to help it be seen and make a difference. In addition to the website, They Them Project is everywhere. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe to our podcast through iTunes or Google Play. Remember, the project grows and informs only when it is shared by people like you. Go to theythemproject.org and share what you see and hear. Hello, my name is Brent Dundor. I'm a full-time photographer, activist, and ally, and the proud producer of the They Them Project. They Them Project interviews non-binary individuals, offering a platform for them to be seen and heard while informing and educating everyone on how words and actions affect the trans plus community.
Hi, my name's Dot or Rue. I use they, them, their pronouns.
Welcome, Dot or Rue. So, what is there a name that you would prefer for me to use for you today?
I really have no preference. I came up with a fun nickname for myself, Dotaroo, but I could use either.
Okay. So, Dot, I remember your interview very well because you were one of the first, or maybe the first person who used only they, them pronouns. I asked for you to come back today because the project and I were fortunate enough to be able to bring They Them Project as a gallery to a space that's coming up and I'm going to announce later on. But I'm asking participants from the project to come back and do a new portrait that I think is going to be really good in a gallery scene. So that's why you came back today. But when I was talking to you, I looked on your Facebook and I saw that you announced a name change. Tell me anything you want to share, what has happened with you, probably as part of your journey to using the name Dot or the name Rue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I haven't had a legal name change yet. That might come later on. I'm comfortable right now with just the social name change. But I started using Rue actually this last fall around October, I think, just to get away from a more masculine sounding name and to just try something out too. Because I think names can be more fluid than we make them be, just like pronouns and just like gender. And so going by Rue or going by some other name, like, another month is not that big a deal as long as people are on board. And so I started going by Rue, really liked it. And then not soon after in December, I started using Dot. And it just feels right to get away from something that sounds less masculine and more me, I guess.
When I first started this project to challenge my own perspective, and as I've always called ignorance, to the idea of being gender nonconforming, non-binary, using they, them pronouns, I had no perspective on why someone would want to change their name. So I started doing the project, and some of the first people that came in here were saying that they use a different name than what I had known them as. And being completely honest, which again, I'm trying to do with this project, I had no idea why, like, and it was a whole nother level of something that I now I'm choosing to like fully understand. So, if I remember correctly, when we did your interview, I think I was asking you if you've ever thought about using a different name.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, you were saying that you have thought about it, but you haven't. I'm trying to remember exactly what you said, but I think you said you have thought about it, but you haven't felt the need to make that change.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right there? Or?
That sounds about accurate.
Okay,
yeah.
So what has happened since then? Why has the name changed?
I think I've just grown more in my identity as an agender individual that since coming out about 2 years ago, I've learned a lot more about myself and a lot more in how I want to interact in the world. And part of that is being recognized not by, perceptions and my first name being sounding more masculine and someone easily just saying like, oh, like that's a man. Rather than that, having my name not so, associated with masculine identity, having a more feminine feel to it, so that I'm not immediately put in the box of man, masculine, and, the identity that I had when I was a child or when I was younger. So a big part of it was just changing that feel. And I think that's been very important for me since changing my name.
Since I interviewed you for They Them Project, it's changed a little bit, not just in the new style of portraits that I'm doing, but the podcast that people are listening to right this second. One of the reasons that I started doing podcasts was because I can include more of the conversation that happens. Because what was happening was through video interviews, I knew that people would stop watching the video after a certain amount of time. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I remember, and I've thought about this a lot actually, in the time, how long ago was that? Like 6 months ago at least?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you were leaving, I used the wrong pronoun to say goodbye to you. And it really genuinely, it's bothered me that I did that. But to be honest, and again, this is part of the project, the reason I think that I was having a hard time with that is I wanted to use your previous name to say goodbye to you. And I think that does, in my head, even in this mindset of the project using they, them pronouns, I misgendered you.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say, first of all, that has bothered me a little bit. And through the project, through most people, they say people make mistakes. But what I'm learning through interviewing people is using the correct pronouns for people is one of the first steps of showing respect to them. So I just wanted to include that as part of this podcast, that I remember when I misgendered you, and that I do think it had something to do with your name. So do you have anything to say to that? I don't know.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I think that makes a lot of sense. My old name is easily associated with masculinity. And so it's an association thing that everyone makes, for many different names. And I think it's just pervasive through our culture, and it's not something that I'm mad at individuals for. And like you said, like a lot of people who use they them pronouns, or who you may use different who may be misgendered often, I think for a lot of people it's not about the screwing up one time or misgendering one time or X amount of times. It's about trying and having the effort. And so that's what I appreciate about you.
Thanks for that, first of all. But one of the things that people have said that I think defines what you were just saying very simply is it's about intention.
Yeah.
And I can understand that. Another thing that I've seen through the interviews and a lot of bits and pieces of social media and research and reading that I've done is like the fact that you had that you previously were using a name that most would think as more masculine, blah blah blah. That doesn't mean that it's that it's Dot's problem. Like it all comes back to understanding how you want to respect somebody. And if somebody who is cisgendered and has a name that would qualify more towards their gender, imagine if they were always misgendered based on their name, and how that would affect somebody. And not just like as a mistake, not just as a mistake that one or two people have done in the last 6 months or something, but like always.
Yeah.
And that would be really tiresome. So, I mean, did you say, was there like a specific point where you decided I'm changing my name? was there like a specific time that happened?
So as far as like, I kind of, like I said, this fall, I kind of tried out the Rue and Dot.
Were you at like an event? Were you with friends and they said, do you want a different name or something like that?
I've been talking with a few friends about it, like even through last summer. But there wasn't, I don't know if there was like a specific moment. It was just kind of, I was just with a friend and we were just like, we were chatting about pronouns and non-binary. It was another non-binary friend of mine. And we were just talking about pronouns and things. And I was just like, I'm just going to try a different name. Like, why not? But it wasn't, honestly, that process over a couple of months trying out a new name was fine. And it was just kind of like, oh, like I'm just getting used to this name. Like, it's just great. And it wasn't until recently that I was like, this is actually what I want. Like, actually coming out to like my new work and like my family as like with this different name. And so that's kind of been the process of like, okay, now I'm actually telling people and it feels right. And like, this is what I need.
So something that I've touched on through other people with the idea of previous names or is the label of how they define that name. And I don't want to even list specific definitions or words that people have used for that name. I want to hear how you would describe that. The name that we had used previously in the project.
Yeah.
How do you label that name? I think you have defined it a bit here.
Yeah.
But I just want to like touch on that, what that means to you.
I know people use the term dead name. Can use the term dead name to refer to maybe a name that they once used and no longer do. But for me, that term doesn't quite fit the definition because I don't like, it's not dead to me. Like, it's not like I've gone by Jacob and like, it's fine, but it's just, I'm moving on. It's not necessarily that it's like, I'm past it, but it's not necessarily that like, I never want to hear that name again. It's just that I don't, in my day-to-day life that I just want to move, move on to.
Right. So I've done everything that I could up until now to not use the name that we had done previously. And that's because I have through the project seen just the energy change in people when they have to refer to their previous name. Yeah. There's definitions of birth name, dead name, the name we do not discuss, do not use that name in front of me. Like, and then there are people like Xochi, who is the last person that I interviewed, although this podcast might come out after one or two other people go through the project. Xochi was using their birth name over and over again in the project to explain that that's part of their journey. But that's different for each person. Like, there are people who just say, do not ask me what that name is. Do not bring that name up. Yeah. It is dead. That's why I asked the question, just so that people listening who might not have a perspective on people who are non-binary and what their name represents to them, similar to how I didn't at the beginning of this project, I really just want people to understand how important that is. Yeah. And honestly, I think it's so beautiful too. It's the way that I look at it or think about it for the people who have described the new name and why this is so unique, because this is new for you. It's like a rebirth in some ways. Yeah. I don't want to speak for you. So tell me what exactly how that makes you feel that somebody uses your new name.
Yeah, but I guess going back quickly, so Jacob isn't a name that I want to hear often or at all, really. But it's a name that I still know, and it's not gonna harm me too much. But Dot and Rue is like really what, like, if I don't hear that often, then I'm gonna, be a little sad. And so, that's what I'm trying to get out more and be more comfortable with, just sharing that, like, hey, yeah, these are my names. You can use either of them. And, telling people who had once used my, Jacob to refer to me. I think it's funny now that I'm, we at the beginning, we didn't say it much. But yeah, just that, kind of going back and just going through the relearning process for other people and for myself too, because I've referred to myself as Jacob, since having the name change. And
the only reason that in my opinion and through the project, the only reason that I feel it's appropriate for me to ask these questions is because we are doing this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like that we moved on.
Oh,
this
exactly.
is me, right? And that's another thing that I always try to reiterate to the people listening who are trying to understand. I don't think I asked you this question when you were here last time. And I'm just curious, has there ever been a time when someone has come to you, and maybe even without a button that you're wearing today that says they, them, has there ever been a time someone has come to you and asked you what pronouns you prefer?
I'm trying to think, but as far as I know, without prompting of the environment, being more open to pronouns or asking pronouns, I don't think so. But I've definitely been in some situations where, the school gathering or a community group or something, where people will immediately offer their pronouns and ask others. And but I do notice that's mostly me that's offering that up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I imagine that in those situations, it's like this huge breath, where it's just like, oh, people are going to get me before I even have to grow with them and the conversation. So the reason that I bring that up is just how amazing that chance can be for people who are non-binary, to have the chance to be able to say their pronouns without having to bring it up themselves.
Right.
But I was hoping that you would be able to say that there has been a time when someone has come up to you. But right now, that's not the norm. And hopefully that can change over time. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else where you have grown in your journey using non-binary pronouns, names? Is there anything else that has changed in that regard since I interviewed you?
I think just becoming a little more comfortable with, in every situation that I, share my pronouns and share my name. And coming out at work, my new work has been probably one of the most challenging things recently, but also I think one of the biggest growths for me in sharing my pronouns and sharing my name, and just being unforgiving of myself. And I don't know.
You're willing to challenge yourself and people a little bit more, maybe?
Yeah, I think I'm still trying to get there, but I'm definitely a lot better than I was 6 months ago.
All right. So thank you for being here, Dot. As I do with all of the interviews, I would like to give you a chance to say anything else you would like to say to anyone listening or the community.
I think it's hard to think that someone who's non-binary or who's transgender in your life, but it's a lot more prevalent than you think. And you've probably met one or two, even if you don't know it. And so just to be mindful of that, we're everywhere, and so you're going to run into trans people wherever you are. So to just try to be more mindful about that.
They Them Project grows and informs only when it is shared by people like you. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast channels on iTunes and Google Play, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. The best place to view all of the project is theythemproject.org. It is here that you can see all of the photos, videos, and podcast interviews, and easily share the project to help it make a difference.